Yes, we have made it. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Division 3. We finally got there. I do apologise for the late start. I had a bit of technical issues there. My fault. Do apologise to everyone. But we're here. We are at the fabulous Monaco Grand Prix circuit for Division 3. I'm joined, of course, with RJ. How are you doing this evening, mate?
All right.
Yeah?
I thought I was doing this on my own because Jack always leaves me on my own. We'll
Don't
bring
worry
you
about it.
bring you back down to where the real racing's at.
Absolutely, Division Three. I mean, I had a lot of fun commentating on these last year. Sorry, last year. I say that last game on F1 22. Had a pretty decent championship battle, if I remember rightly. So yeah, it was quite an exciting time. But yeah, I mean, for somebody like myself, who obviously not too caught up on everything that's going on in D3 at the moment. Obviously, you're the man, the myth, the legend that can tell me more about it. Give us a bit of a rundown. What's occurring? What's it saying at the moment?
um, it's interesting. We had Brent running away with the championship. He got moved up to D2, so the championship's a bit weird at the moment. YHOY, who is not here today, is leading, but he didn't race last week either. I think Farrell is here. Farrell's second in the championship, can take the lead of the championship with a win. Um, but yeah, it's just weird each week. The people you think should be
Yeah.
winning just crash early or
Changes and
something
all that. No,
happens.
that's a good thing though.
Yeah.
I quite like that. The thought of it. To be fair, I mean, I'm riding on board here. Oh, with Pharrell as we go through to Massenet now, and that was almost very much into the barrier there for the man who's sitting in P1 at the moment. Of course, for anyone who has been living under a rock, I'm sure you all know by now, but because of the problems that Codemasters and EA have been throwing at us yet again, we are in the F1 World Cars today. So obviously deliveries will be different. People being cars that they aren't expecting. But riding on board with Pharrell at the moment, going through the tunnel, I want to see what lap time he can do. I think he's backed off now, actually. Yes, he has, because he made that mistake coming out of Mirabeau, sorry, it was actually in the end. So let's see who else is on the lap. We've got another Alpine liveried car going through. I'm not even entirely certain how to pronounce that. Puli Boy? Oh God, don't know.
Yeah, I struggle.
Yeah, exactly. He hits the wall though, but he's going through. I think he's improving on his time though. So let's see what he can do as he comes around the final few corners now. Turn his ERS off actually. So I think he's going into the pits. Yes, he is. So the first runs have been completed now, and yes, we've seen Pharrell going P1 with that. A man who is definitely on a lap at the moment though is Lars in P6 coming through bottom Mirabeau now through Portier, of course, famous corner for when Ayrton Senna crashed there in 1988, I believe it was, obviously whilst leading the race by an absolute monster amount of time, but he's gone out there. As we see though, the drivers seem to be, yes, I think doing a lot of, I was about to say, I think this track's very big for two out laps, I believe, especially with the lack of tyre wear, but also because of how much fuel you need to burn to get onto your lap with the right amount of fuel possible. So I'm guessing, are we going to see more of that this time, RJ? Do you think we're going to see a lot of people just doing two out laps?
Yeah, and from what I was hearing, I feel like preparing the tyres was a bit of a struggle as well. So the two out laps probably the way to go in general. Anyway, obviously, yeah, you said the fuel. They get like I don't know, 4.5 laps, 5 laps of fuel to start off with, so they've got to burn that. Um, yeah, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah.
As a lot of people either on out laps or heading into the pits. About now 7 minutes left. Yeah, probably a chance for one more run. I would have thought, even with 7 minutes.
Absolutely. I think, like you say, because of the two outlaps, yes, of course, it's quite a short circuit, but the time does rack up. One man, like I say, who is on a lap now is Lars. Went for that two outlap technique, as we saw, and because of that, he's now in the tunnel at the moment, absolutely flooring it. Let's see, as I ride on board with him now into the Nouvelle Chicane, what his line is like. So easy to invalidate your time to jump into here. Seems to have got over the curves well. Didn't get too much of a tank slapper out of there. So let's see now as we go into the back. Such a fun corner when you can hook the car up and get it thrown into there, and this is just such an easy corner to lose time not going into the swimming pool now, but he's done it really well as we go towards the final few corners now. Does he keep it nice and tight here, Bex? Yes, he does. What gear does he use for the final corner? That'll be interesting to me. Loses the back end slightly as he comes through the final corner, but coming up to the line now, let's see if we can get anywhere near, as a lot of people start calling him, must be excited to see the race. But it's 11.0 for Lars at the moment, keeps it P6, and I believe Jordan's on an outlap as well. So yeah, like you said before, people doing a lot of double outlaps, sorry. Lars stays in P6 in the end, and of course we've got some other drivers who are just doing that double outlap at the moment. So we'll see some drivers what seem to be on a lap, but are actually just pulling away the fuel, trying to get rid of it, and of course keeping the tyres as hot as possible.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find anyone that's actually on a flying lap. I think Conor O'Keefe has just started one. I'm trying to find someone towards the end. I don't actually think. Coolie Kicker,
Yeah, I think potentially he's on a lap.
maybe. I think Coolie Kicker's just coming around the final corner. DRS is open, so this is either a flying lap. It is flying lap, and it goes pole position. So
great time in the end. Absolutely fabulous. I was just about to say this. So I was wondering if he was going to get into the nines, obviously in Division 3, and yes, we definitely are. Coolie Kicker getting a 9.9 already with 5 minutes left to go in the session, so potentially he could have time for another run if he's happy doing one outlap as he comes through now. Crack as well in the middle sector is down by a tenth, so he needs to do a bit better there as he comes through the tunnel section now. What about Stomper as he goes to the first section? 3/10 down, so unless he is having a really, really, really bad first part of the lap, I think it might be a bit of an outlap for him. So yeah, got quite a few drivers on the ball at the minute. Some of the guys at the back too haven't quite put times on that are representative. Pharrell starts his outlap as well, but Crack as he comes through the final corner, yes, I think that was a double outlap of him, about to start his main lap, and I think we're about to start a lap now. Comes round the final part of the lap, yes he does, about to start his lap as we go towards turn 1. RJ, let's ride on board with Crack, and if you don't mind, do a lap on board with us, tell us how to do a brilliant lap around Monaco.
Yeah, I've got to remember the corner names here. We have a retirement down at the chicane.
Ooh, yes,
and that's old school, but I don't know if you want to switch to that or.
Yeah, I think what he's done there, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's actually clipped the curb on the inside. So you can see as we go through there now, a lot of the drivers, the car was still there. One of the tyres is still on track as well. So Pharrell looked like he was actually involved in that potentially as I was riding on board with him. Hopefully for his sake he wasn't. But it looked to be that way. Let's go back on board with Crack now, see what he's doing as we go through. I believe it's actually starting to... Yes, it's starting to rain as well. Oh, as Crack crashes out, going into the same place, into the Nouvelle Chicane. That is an absolute magnet for a car crash, as we've seen this evening. But yes, it's absolutely starting to rain here in Monaco at the moment. And because of that, we're seeing drivers go off left, right, and the centre. The grip must not be there for them. And Coolie Kicker might have actually made a brilliant idea, really, in the end of getting these lap in so early. It seemed like he was a bit out of sync with everybody else, like you were mentioning. But obviously, with it raining now, of course, that could cause massive issues. Random ball with Pharrell as he's just started his lap. Let's see what he can do as we go through the casino section now. If you want to carry on with us, RJ, see if you can get a lap on board. I'll wait for you to tell us what's going on, because obviously you'll know more than me.
Well, Farrell, by the looks of it, is already 3.5 temps down in that first sector as he comes up to the hairpin. I was going to say at the start of the session, it did look like there was a few raindrops in the air, but nothing like this. It's starting to come down a lot heavier now as Farrell brings it through the tunnel up to the Nouvelle Chicane, which has caught out 2 drivers already, probably more. But Farrell gets through there very nicely, keeps it clean. The sector split is coming up round the other side of Tabac, and Farrell's a bit wide through there, and he is 1.9 seconds down. So I'm going to say that's probably qualifying over for the whole field.
Yeah, I think obviously it's really hard sometimes to tell how much grip has been lost in the rain, but you can see the cars coming to the pits now. There's basically nobody on track. I think the only person who is on track at the moment is Lars. Yeah, Farrell retires from the session. I think everybody's realising now the rain is coming down, and it looks to be that Coolie Kicker with a great time at 9.9, the only man who get under the 1 minute 10s by 4/10 of a second almost, is going to take pole position here by a healthy margin, must be said, on those soft tyres, of course. Getting some comments coming in as well saying good luck to Connor. Obviously at the moment in P3, I'm sure he'll be happy with that, but of course could have been better, only 0.02 of a second actually behind Farrell as well, so interesting to see there what will be going on. The only man, like I say, on track at the moment is Lars. He is on our lap. Let's see if he can actually improve it slightly. No, he is 1.3 seconds down, so unless he has an absolute miracle in the final sector, I think it's going to be into the pit lane for Lars, and surely for everybody it's going to be end of session, end of qualifying. Yes, into the pits comes Lars, and I believe that is absolutely everybody now. We'll get the retirements coming through, and it is going to be Coolie Kicker on pole position. Do you think Coolie Kicker can take it from there?
I don't know. Coolie Kicker is an interesting one. It always seems to be up there, and then it never quite comes together for him. I hope he can. He's had the one podium so far, in the first race of the season. So he just needs a little bit of luck, really. But I guess he's got it with the weather,
Absolutely.
pole position, and no one to stop him, really.
Absolutely. I mean, of course, like you say as well. Obviously, that only that one podium so far this season. Well, he's waited for the perfect race to do a brilliant lap in qualifying as well and get on pole position because, of course, this is the track where you need it really. Let's not forget as well. Of course, this is very much a wheel track. People forget to talk about it sometimes, but of course, when you're on a pad, driving around Monaco is not fun at all. And let's not forget, of course, people on wheel. For example, Connor up in P3 at the moment as well, and of course, Cooler Kicker on a wheel as well in pole position. So again, it's so easy to forget things like this, but it does make a massive difference in the end. Obviously, Farrell as well in P2 in the standings, he's going on a good race as well, whilst, like you mentioned, YHY isn't here. But yeah, it is Cooler Kicker as the time finally comes down. We're going to see the drivers retire from the session now. Yes, there they go. And yes, it is Cooler Kicker on pole position in the end. A 9.9, great lap time. He did it at the perfect time as well, because of course the rain started falling here in the Monaco midnight sky. So Farrell in P2, Connor in P3 as well, Crack in P4. Couldn't quite get a lap together, actually crashed of course at the Nouvelle chicane when the rain started coming down. Stomper in P5, and then Hetfield Boy in P6. Lars P7 in the end, couldn't improve on his lap time, got relegated to that 7th position. Jordan P8, Cam K Mom in 9th, and of course M Kers in 10th, rounding out the top 10. Ryan in P11, and Matt rounds out the top 12 points paying positions at the moment. So we've got a few seconds to wait now as the race comes on. I'm not too certain, of course, whether it will be raining in the race as well. That would be very intriguing in the midnight sky of Monaco if it is absolutely chucking it down, because it's quite hard to tell if it's going to be raining, to be fair, unless you got bright blue skies up above you. But no, when it's absolutely pitch black, you have no idea, do you? So interesting to see. It looks like it's dry for the moment, at least. Obviously, we've got a formation lap to come before we start the race. But yes, of course, like we say, on pole position, yeah, we have a driver who only has one podium so far this season. Showed great pace in qualifying. Obviously, like you say, it's all about the race, though. What do you think is going to happen, RJ? Who do you think, if you had to pick, who do you think is probably most likely to take the win here?
Oh, it's so difficult because you never know who's going to crash out. Um, I'm going to lean towards Farrell. If he doesn't get involved in an incident early, I think he's in a very good position.
Absolutely.
And he needs it.
Yeah. I mean, let's not forget, of course, he is 22 points behind in the championship at the moment. So, of course, he does need a good kind of race here just to pull the points back to YHY. Basically, just use the time wisely whilst he is not with us this week. Because, of course, it's so much more about collecting the points throughout a season instead of going for some absolute Hail Mary victory or something like that. So, yeah, I think you're right there, especially with the form that Farrell's had this season as well. Yes, don't forget though, he hasn't had a race victory though. He's had a good few podiums. I believe it's 4 podiums, if I'm not mistaken, this season.
Yes.
Of course, didn't have the best race last time out at Monza. But like I say, he's actually not got a race win this season, as neither, of course, has Cooler Kicker. So interesting to see if we'll get a new race winner this season at this circuit on this day. But for the rest of the field as well, who do you think is going to be maybe a surprise package as we look through the rest of the field?
Um, someone he always got me in when he was in when we were in D3 together. Cam K always managed. Well, he can't do it today because there's no safety cars, but he always managed to time a pit stop perfectly. And he never normally makes massive mistakes, like going into the wall or whatever. So he should jump up the field. And the other one I'd say is probably Matt Tibos as well. Just he just last couple of races he just found a way to gain places up the field. So those are
Absolutely.
the two really.
Yeah, Matt in P9 in the standings at the moment as well on 41 points. Really big battle going on in the championship at the moment for the kind of 5th to about 12th place, about 10 points separating all them drivers. So really intriguing to see who's going to win out in that battle as well for the 5th place in the championship. As the drivers come around the final corner now, Cooler Kicker taking pole position here in Monaco, about to start and see if he can get a race victory this season out of course the jewel in the crown, the Monaco Grand Prix, the one they all want to win, the one that is so hard to win, and we will see as they all start to line up on their spots. Now, interesting to see as well, Cooler Kicker is on medium tyres, but the rest of the top 4 are on hard, so they're definitely going long into this race, which is intriguing to see. But as we go through the grid now, haven't got the best camera angle, but we're just waiting for everybody else to line up on the grid, and we'll get this one ready to go underway. Everybody on the grid now, just waiting for those 5 elusive red lights to bring us to the Monaco Grand Prix in Season 10 here in Division 3. The revs go up. Who's going to get the best start? Initially off the line, it looks like Coolie Kicker got a good start, but it looks like it's a bit tentative. Side by side in the background there for P4 and P5. Stomper trying to go down the inside, gets the move done. Some battling going on in the background as well. Connor keeps it in P3. Pharrell in P2, trying to get around the outside of Coolie Kicker, but a great start from the man on pole position. Pulls away on those medium tyres, and in the background, doesn't seem like anyone's made any contact. Looks like a good start from everyone so far. As we go through the casino section now, Crack up into P4 as well. Good start from him at the moment. And as you can see, going through now, the medium tyre runners have tried to get through on the hards, but haven't been able to do it yet, RJ, as we go through the hairpin, for the first time.
No, top 4 all stays the same. Coolie Kicker, perfect start off the line, as we've got a yellow flag back at the hairpin. I think that's cleared now, but it was Matt Tibos, Cam K involved down there. But yeah, the top 4 all got away very nicely. Stomper couldn't quite get the inside against Crack and had to hold position, but they've all pretty much held position in the top, I think top 8. Some moves towards the back, but not much going, as Coolie Kicker already has a 1.7 second lead over the rest of the, over second place, and he needs that gap on these medium tyres. He's going to pit early, you would think, and he needs to try and get through undercut as much traffic as he can. So he needs this gap, but 2 seconds already after 1 lap, as we've got Jordan into the pits. But behind, it's all kind of just staying in formation. Stomper on the mediums, a little bit back from that train behind Farrell. So the mediums from 5th down are going to have a very difficult time of getting through, but it's all basically this battle. It's kind of a tactical battle at the front. Coolie Kicker
Absolutely.
trying to gap.
Yeah, I think like you say as well, with Coolie Kicker on such a brilliant first lap as well. He did everything he needs to do on those medium tyres, of course, just got away from the rest of the field, and he is now absolutely flying as we go through the chicane for the first time on this brilliant circuit in the midnight. Everyone's just, I think, slowing themselves down, not really want to make any mistakes. Race, of course, it's a race of attrition. It's a race that the drivers need to make sure they finish before they can think about winning. As we go through the swimming pool section now with the cars, we can see those strategies possibly at the bottom. Hard runners, of course, looking to pit around lap 21 as Coolie Kicker. That's another fastest lap of the race. Interesting to see as well, of course, like you mentioned, Stomper not quite able to close in initially, but now as we go through to start lap number 3, he's now right on the back of the cars in front, starting to pull in closer. And it looks at the moment like Connor has not got the pace to really make any moves on Farrell and so on, but Farrell just doesn't seem to have the pace to pull away. I think these 3 cars in 2nd, 3rd and 4th are going to be a bit of a roadblock for the guys behind, but somebody who's definitely going to love this is Coolie Kicker, because of course if he can build that gap, yes, there's no safety cars, and he'll know that if he can build the gap, get a pit stop done, obviously he's not going to be worried about anything else, because he'll have a brilliant lead as we go through the rest of this race. So like I say, it's Coolie Kicker at the lead at the moment. Farrell in P2, needs a good race to close that gap on YHY. Connor's in P3 at the moment. His fans are in the comments wanting him to do well, and he's in P3 at the moment on the podium as we go through the Nouvelle chicane for the 3rd time out of 39 at the moment, RJ.
And we have an overtake down towards the Nouvelle chicane, or thought we did. Matt Tibos going down the inside of MCR. MCR felt like, he's given the position up. That was close behind. I didn't quite see that the camera cut, but definitely someone in the wall by the looks of it.
Actually, I think it might have been Cam K actually who tried to push his way through. I think he's just about been able to get through in the end. I'm not sure what happened there, but as we go through the final few corners, like I say, Matt has now got ahead of this train in P8, 3 seconds behind the car in front now, but he's going to want to push on as much as possible and potentially get towards Lars.
Yeah, MCR kind of felt like he wasn't given enough space at the chicane, could it, but he gave that position back. So Matt Tibos into P8, needed to make that move and can go set after the medium runners in front now. Stomper is now all over the back of Crack, nearly goes into the back of him, into the hairpin, but nothing doing round there. They're still all in a line as the gap out front is now 4.8 seconds. I mean, we're halfway around lap 4. This is this is ridiculous, but you've got to see how much the tyres wear. I guess the hards just aren't the best to warm up, as per usual. But it's all just in a train behind. Medium runners trying to catch back up. Lars a gap in front of him, 3.3 seconds. Whether that's damage induced, I don't know. And Matt Tibos trying to close in on Lars himself. As yeah, it's all just typical Monaco, I guess. Really, everyone stuck behind each other. Nothing really happening.
Absolutely, very, very tentative at the moment. I think for everyone. I think they understand, of course, like we say, with it being Monaco. Yes, they know there's no safety cars. Of course, that throws a different bit of a spanner into the works. We see some overtakes going in the background. MKer is potentially going around the outside of Matt. Yes, Matt, I think potentially either got damage or maybe made a mistake at the final corner. So he's lost a few positions there. Now down to P11 after doing all the hard work to get up to P8. So not sure what happened there with that man, but he's down in P11 now. MKer's up into P8. Lars running a very, very lonely race at the moment in P7, but it's been a good few laps from him to get into that position. As we see another person in the pits, Ryan, in the background pitting at the moment. But we can see second, third and fourth obviously just absolutely falling back from Coolie Kicker out front. 5.6 seconds now, but look at the train that is now occurring behind Farrell. Yes, Farrell, I think he's not under any threat at all anymore, just because of the nature of the track, of course, can't get any overtakes done. But as we go through the Nouvelle chicane, there's so many cars that seem to be quicker than him at the moment. Right on board now with Connor as we go through to back, right on the back of Farrell now as well. And you can just see now, Farrell just doesn't seem to have the grip at the moment, and Connor's basically pushing him through the swimming pool chicane as we go through the final few corners now onto lap number 6, and Farrell just seems to be locking up everywhere, just doesn't seem to have the confidence. I'm quite surprised, I must admit as well, these drivers, a lot of them didn't put medium tyres on at the start, because of course with it being Monaco, yes, of course with hard tyres you can go later on into the race, but of course it would be massive to get an undercut here, because the overtake is basically impossible, as Matt comes into the pits as well, so potentially had some damage. But like I say, riding on board with Farrell now, he just can't quite get the car away from everyone behind. I mean, look at that, it's just like Connor behind, you got Crack behind, Stomper, everybody's just following him as we go through the hairpin for the 6th time in this race.
Yeah, well, Farrell just... he's had moments this season where he's been in this position, qualified towards the front, and just not quite had the ability to warm the tyres up at the start, and he's not, most of the time he's not lost positions, but he has lost a hell of a lot of times to the car in front, as the gap is now 7 seconds. Matt Tibos did have damage on the previous lap. He lost about 2 seconds, I think, during that lap to the car in front, so definite damage. And you can see on board as Crack picks up a penalty on lap 6. Three cuts already is quite extreme. Even, yeah, well, there's only a few places you can actually do it around Monaco as well, so that's I mean, most people probably will pick up penalties during this race. It tends to happen around Monaco, but to get one this early, it's not great, with 33 laps still to go. So Crack's got to really get a shift on during the latter stages of this race.
Absolutely.
But
I think you mentioned it there as well, obviously, with everyone kind of getting penalties. It's one of them, isn't it? I mean, obviously, let's say look at Farrell, for example. Yes, I think he understands now, of course. He's nowhere near the pace of Coolie Kicker at the moment, of course, on much harder tyres at the moment. But if he can, potentially close the gap then on mediums, but don't get any penalties, it could be the difference, couldn't it? Everybody focuses, of course, on winning the race, but of course, sometimes winning the race means just not getting penalties. Actually, Connor is right on the back of Farrell now, almost gets the overtake going towards to back, can't quite do it. There's just not enough space for these cars to go side by side through anywhere on this circuit. As we go through the swimming pool section now, and it's just so much time being lost really for Connor at the moment, as we see another 3-second time penalty coming in as we go through the final corner now. And look at this, Connor's basically pushing Farrell through the final corner, but as you can see, even with DRS, there just isn't enough straight to make a move down the inside as we go and start lap number 8.
He's just right!
Oh, that was almost into the wall.
He's just about kept that rear locked fully into turn 1, brake very late. It almost looked like he was going to send it on Farrell for a second, but somehow manages to keep that at the wall. Loses a position to Crack. He was all over the back of Farrell, probably just a bit too close for a good enough exit onto the pit straight. But yeah, that is very late on the brakes, but very well held from Connor, only losing the 1 position, but it has given Farrell a little bit of breathing space, probably at a moment when he just about needed it as well. But the gap,
9 seconds already. Farrell can't quite get it done, actually. I mean, yeah, I mean, 9 seconds, the gap already. I mean, I think you can tell, I think Connor, he's just frustrated. I think he realises he's got so much pace in this Grand Prix, and he just can't quite get past the cars. And even then, right on the back of Crack there already, and he has the pace to overtake him, but he doesn't want to make the move just in case there's some contact. And you can't blame him, really, of course, with the way Monaco is. But I think he did very well to only lose a position and not his entire front left corner there as we went through turn 1 on lap number 8. But as we go through now to start lap number 10, sorry, excuse me, 9, should I say. As we go through towards turn 1, no problems this time as such for Connor. But you can just tell he's got so much pace in that bright red car. But unfortunately, he cannot quite get through against anyone at the moment. And of course, Crack now, as we go through the casino section, I mean, just look at the pace he seems to have compared to the drivers on those hard tyres. He just doesn't have the same problems that they seem to have. As we go through Mirabone now, see Crack running wide again. Will he potentially try and get a nose up the inside as we go into the hairpin? Looks at it, but of course, it's a very, very do-or-die move there. Didn't want to half go for that, and he didn't. He tucks back in behind as we go through Lower Mirabone now and into Portier. Now, if he wants to get a move done, he's going to have to get the best exit, and it looks like he just got some wheel spin on the exit there. He was trying it, I think you could tell there, but he just doesn't seem to have it in the locker at the moment. Yes, he can close in as much as he wants, but as you can see, even on the brakes, as he almost loses it again, holds the car just about, but he seems to be really pushing at the moment, and maybe he's overheating his tyres.
Yeah, Connor messaged me before the race. He always messaged me asking if I'm doing comms, and but then he then messaged me something like kind of how he's feeling. And his only sentence he sent to me is cracks into the pit.
Already?
Connor goes, I need to win this race. So he's clearly going full send for this. This Crack is into the pits on the end of lap 9, and it is for a new front wing.
Interesting.
So I didn't see where Crack picked up damage, but yeah, mediums to the end on a new front wing.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I think that could be possible getting mediums to the end. One thing I will say is when he came into the pits, I was riding on board with him. I was looking from behind, but it did look he clipped the wall coming into the pit lane. So unless potentially he got damage there, because even with, of course, damage on the car, with him, of course, he's come out now in P12 as well. He's in a lovely bit of space, it must be said. So if he wants an undercut, this is the moment to get it. He needs to put some good laps in. But potentially could have got the damage coming into the pit lane. And of course, at that point, it's too late to say to the pit crew, nope, I don't want a new front wing. It's coming whether you like it or not. So interesting to see what goes on now. I mean, Connor, yes, he's been released a bit now, and you can already see the pace that Crack had just wasn't enough because, of course, Farrell, of course, he was struggling earlier on, was pulling away from these guys. So I'll be interested to see now what Connor does as the gap out front already, as we just ride on board with Cooler Kicker for a moment and just see what's going on with himself. The most lonely race in the world, brilliant so far from him. Up by 9 seconds ahead of Farrell as he goes through turn 1 now. But speaking of which, let's see, already Connor is back in DRS of Farrell in front of him. And the drivers as well don't seem to be using much ERS at the moment. Stomper in P4 hasn't got a lot left, as we see Lars into the pit lane as well. So this is a normal time to come in and put on a fresh set of the hard compound tyres. So interesting to see where he'll come out compared to everybody else. But as we go through, it looks like Crack has done a brilliant outlap at the moment. He's going to absolutely fly by the pit lane there. Only a second off his fastest time as we go through, which obviously that's whilst coming out the pit lane as well. So sure to see some good laps coming in from him for the rest of this Grand Prix. Farrell, though, again has Connor right up his gearbox. And as we go through, Portier now, can he get a good enough exit to go for a move in what potentially could be the only overtaking spot on the entire track? He just doesn't seem to have the straight line speed.
No, he doesn't. One thing he's
side
gone
by
for the
side.
switchback. Farrell very deep into the chicane. Connor goes for the outside. There's not good. Squeezed just into the wall there. But I think Connor will get away with that. Farrell just cannot seem to make an apex at the moment. I was just about to say before that kicked off, the gap at the front had kind of stabilised at 9 seconds. It's now back up to, it's up to 11.3 because of all that battling. But the gap was starting to stabilise, so the mediums clearly hit a little bit of a phase as Connor drifts his way through turn 1. He's just maybe a bit too aggressive on the brake pedal. He's risking it. A lot of times he doesn't need to be. But he must be so frustrated. He's gone for so many moves against Farrell at this point, just not being able to pull any of them off. He just can't nail that key exit coming out. Well, those two key exits coming out the final corner and coming out of Portier as he comes round towards Portier again, and actually that's a lot better from Connor this time around. Surely Farrell is on the ERS. He is to defend from Connor. Does he go to the inside? No, he doesn't. Farrell's going to have to defend around the outside, and he's able to do that.
Oh, it's the wall!
Oh, they're into the wall. That was inevitable.
Never going to end well there, and that's actually ended up with Stomper getting through into P3. I mean, the drivers, yes, you love to see them going side by side everywhere, but here at Monaco, it's so hard to do. Front wing damage now for Connor as well, so I'm sure we'll see him in the pit lane sooner rather than later. He's going to be so frustrated in that car. He's had such pace this race, and yes, he comes into the pit lane now for a new front wing, and Farrell, goes into the wall with Connor, and that I'm sure is one that will be investigated after the Grand Prix has ended. It just seemed a bit of half of this, half of that. Both drivers just didn't really want to give up the position. Of course, that is racing at the moment, but let's see where Connor comes out of the pits. Of course, he puts another front wing on. Crack is already flying past the end of the pit lane. The undercut has absolutely worked brilliantly for him, but now he's in a lot of traffic, so he's going to want these cars to get out of the way as quickly as possible. But the gap at the front is now 13 seconds with Farrell in P2 behind Coolie Kicker. I'll be very surprised if we don't see Coolie Kicker in as well in a few laps' time. I believe about 15 to 19 is the time to go through as we see Crack go down the inside of Max as we go through towards the hairpin for lap number 13. Great move in. I think these drivers are realising, of course, that there's no point in fighting against the inevitable here. And Crack makes a brilliant move going in to Mirabeau at the top as we go through, as we see just how much MKers is just holding up the pack behind as well. You see MKers and Kamke battling it out at the moment, but of course you can see Crack behind as well, initially wanting to just push through and get through this pack as quickly as possible because he wants to get an undercut on the cars in front. This could put him, even with, of course, the traffic that he's in, this could potentially put him into P2 after all is said and done. As it almost goes wide there, actually does Crack. Has to be careful he doesn't actually lose himself into the barrier, because of course that would be absolutely pointless in the end. But as we go through the final few corners now, we could see again, as the cars almost collide, but no, driver in front, I think it's Campe coming to pits, yes it is, but again, Crack is absolutely frustrated, you can tell by the wheel spin he's doing, but I think he'll definitely be P2 on the road at the end of this when all is said and done.
Yeah, even with the front wing change, he should be come out ahead of Farrell when Farrell pits, as he's all over the back of Timon now. I was going to say, if I'm Coolie Kicker, I'm staying out as long as possible. Absolutely. I do not want to come out anywhere near this traffic that Crack is currently in. Now, he should clear, I think he should probably come out probably ahead of MCR, but even still, I wouldn't want to take that risk right now. You've got 15 seconds out front. Just play it safe. You've got track position. No point in risking an early pit stop getting stuck behind someone.
No, I completely agree.
But and I think that's also kind of what the rest of the top four are doing. They're just staying out, biding their time, waiting for things to open up a little bit more. As Crack is still all over the back of Timon. He's not going to look for it down into the final couple of corners as he comes onto the pit straight. He will have DRS. Timon will not. Yeah, as you said, good exit. He has to go the long way round, and I don't know if this one's going to pay off for him. Timon going to squeeze him towards the wall, but the space is given. And as they come up the hill, that is very well held. And Crack is going to go through.
Great racing in the end. Such fine margins. You always see it in Division 3. There's so many good battles up and down the field. Of course, a bit of bumping, a bit of barging, but thankfully for Crack and all his fans, he got the move done and he's in an absolute bucket load of free air now. Of course, he has MKers in front who potentially will be coming into the pits sooner rather than later on the 14 lap old tyres, but the move has been done and Crack is now going to have to put his cracked suit on and make sure he gets as much farther down the road as possible. You see Cooler Kicker into the pit lane now actually, so he's not taking your advice, it must be said, RJ. He's actually gone into the pits already. His tyres must absolutely be screaming enough if he's coming in on lap number 14, but the gap at the front, 14.8 seconds. Even if he does come out in traffic, surely Farrell can't do enough to take that gap back.
Well, Coolie Kicker's just coming into the end of the pit lane now. That's how much of a gap he had. He's only just behind the top four. MCR just coming onto the pit straight. Wow, that is such a big advantage. And actually, if I'm Farrell, I'd be very concerned if he can even consider making that time up on the medium compounded tyre. obviously he's going to have a lot fresher tyres than someone like Crack or Conor O'Keefe, who are stuck in the midfield as we have 2 retirements in the pit lane. But yeah, Cooler Kicker's only, what, 5 seconds off Farrell after a pit stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I will
That
say
is
as
ridiculous.
well, it is ridiculous. It just goes to show as well, though. Look at Crack, of course. He was in some traffic as well. Speaking of which, he's now right on the back of MKers, smelling his gearbox oil as we go through Portier now into the tunnel. So potentially as they go side by side through there, will be a bit of battling. Oh, as there is almost side by side, a bit of contact between the two drivers. Can't quite get through. Does Crack? Sorry, he keeps right behind though the car in front. There's been so many bumps and so many barges between Crack and some other drivers at the moment because he just doesn't seem to make it easy for himself, does he? But what I was going to say was, with the undercut they had, even with being in the traffic, let's not forget the gap at the front was massive when he came into the pit lane and put a new front wing on his car. He's only about 5 seconds or so behind Cooler Kicker, who was so far ahead of him. So that just goes to show how big the undercut is here at the Monaco Grand Prix circuit. As we go through towards turn 1 now, we've got some more people in the pits, but it looks like Crack is going to get the move done on the inside of MKers now. Yes, he does. Makes it easy enough, and he's now up into P4. And as you can see, 8 seconds behind he is Cooler Kicker now. I think the gap when he pitted was 13, so he has gained time even with being in traffic. Just goes to show how brilliant the undercut is around Monaco.
And that's considering he also had a front wing change as well,
Yeah.
which is an extra, 6 seconds in the pit stop. So he's made that up as well. The undercut's just mental by the looks of it. As, Crack in a nice bit of clean air now. As I think, who came in on the last lap? I think Stomper came in from P2 on the road. He's now down behind Conor O'Keefe, who's still stuck in that a little bit of a train behind Timon and the hard runners, which Crack has just made his way through. But are we going to get someone in the pits? Yes, Hapuli Boy into the pits. So the final one really of the medium runners from the start to make their pit stops. Don't know where Hapuli Boy is going to come up. Probably in between Stomper and Jordan. See how much that one lap undercut from Stomper is. As near enough normal service resumed at the top.
Absolutely.
Just
Stomper
the hard
goes around
runners to
outside
pit.
as well. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, like you mentioned, the undercut is just so massive. Farrell really needs to be careful here. I think he's left it too late. 17 laps on those hards. He's going to find himself not only behind Cooler Kicker, he's going to be behind Crack, he's going to be behind Conor O'Keefe, he's going to be behind Stomper, Help Your Boy. He's going to be behind everybody. He's going to be losing about 4 or 5 positions. And yes, you might say, of course, he's going to have much fresher tyres at the end, which of course will help him. But it's Monaco. We've seen it in real life. We've seen it on the game 1,000 times. It does not matter how worn your tyres are. You are not getting a move done at Monaco unless you fully commit and get the help of the driver in front as well. So interesting to see what's going to happen here. Cooler Kicker now right on the back of Farrell as well. Let's not forget, these two drivers, they qualified first and second. One of them has already made a pit stop. The other one still has more to do as Conor gets a 3-second time penalty. The day goes from bad to worse for him, and he has got a 3-second time penalty. It's going to be a massive problem now for him in P6. Riding on board with Cooler Kicker, though, can he get a move on Farrell going towards so much more pace, so much more grip? And he backs out of it completely. I think he realises there's absolutely no point in him fighting. He's so far ahead. And there's just no point in him trying to do anything. Cracking P3 at the moment. I would see a move from Conor on FVR as we go through the final corner there. So he's up into P5. Now got a lot more free air. Some more battling in the background as well between the cars. But Conor, a very frustrated driver today, back up into P5. Can he potentially get a podium? Which I think, unless something amazing happens to Cooler Kicker, is going to be the best he can do.
Yeah, Stomper went for another move coming out of the first corner up the hill, and Timon did a very similar thing. I think it was with Crack where they went up the hill and they nearly went into the wall together. Stomper has to back out of that one, but he will get past Timon pretty quickly, I would have thought. Conor already on the back of MCR, trying to get back into that top 4. But there's a massive gap in front of that. There's so much time to be made up just by, some people going for the undercut, some people hitting the wall, whatever. Hapuli Boy making his move on Mats as Stomper does get past Timon and up into P6. But just the gaps have just spread out so quickly in this pit stop. As we have a crash down at the chicane.
Again. Yeah, I think it's the exact same place he crashed in qualifying as well. Of course, usually I'm sure everyone watching will think, oh, safety car, but of course, this time out, with all the problems, the trials and tribulations we seem to be getting with this game this year, safety cars do not work well around the Monaco Grand Prix circuit. They seem to come out willy-nilly for no apparent reason. So with that said, they have been disabled tonight. If I was Farrell at the moment, and they were, of course, on, I'm sure he'd be like, let's wait for a safety car, let's see, sure there's going to be a safety car. But, of course, there isn't going to be one tonight, so he is absolutely going to be in no man's land as Cam K gets past Jordan as well up the hill. So Jordan comes out and is now in P11. As I think there's some battling in the background as well. As we see down the inside goes Coolie Kicker, takes the lead from Farrell. And just like that, the man who dominated qualifying in the end by almost 0.4 of a second as Crack gets a 3-second time penalty again. So that's 6 seconds worth of penalties for him now. It's going to be so hard for him to keep that podium with this kind of problems that he's got, especially with those 10-lap-old medium tyres. So let's see what Farrell does now. Will he come into the pit lane surely on lap number 20 to strap some new boots on? No, he does not. I think he's realised now potentially that, of course, he's got past the point of no return now. He needs to go as far into this race as possible, potentially even put some soft tyres on. Let's see what he can do. But with the gaps at the moment, he'll be coming out. And I must admit, it seems to be... Let's get the gaps as we see some battling going on. I think MCO's comes to the pit lane. Yes, he does. Finally comes into the pits. I mean, looking at that now, what? It's 25 seconds or so to MCO's, who's in the pit at the moment. We could see Farrell coming in and being down in 7th, 8th or 9th position with, yes, a lot fresher tyres, but just no way of getting past anyone.
Yeah, he's going to be, I'd say, around 6th with Ecos Mats also having to pit. He's just bleeding time. I get what he's doing. He wants the mediums to be, well, to not fall off a cliff at the end, but he's lost so much time that it's not really going to make a difference. Obviously, Crack's already on 11 lap old medium tyres. Actually, Crack just hit the wall, and whether that's damage, I don't know, but he hit the wall on the exit of the Nouvelle chicane. I can't really tell if it has hampered him. It looked a bit slow through there, but you know, it doesn't look too bad. Oh no, he's in the pits.
Absolutely.
Wow, Farrell also pits. Yeah,
absolutely. So with that said, of course, that's going to breathe a bit of a sigh of relief for Farrell as he comes into the pit lane. Another man who's on the move as well, Hepuli Boy, I always pronounce that wrong. Right on the back of Stomper as well at the moment. Both of the drivers having a good race there. But as we can see, what that's done, of course, with Crack having to pit again for another front wing, it's meant that Farrell comes out in front. Oh, did he not put a front wing on? No, he did not, actually.
He just changed onto fresh mediums.
Absolutely. So he didn't lose too much time. But one thing we will see is if Farrell, of course, as Crack gets a 500. It's just a terrible, terrible, terrible time to get a penalty for Crack as well. He's got all the pace.
Time around,
But yeah, he did it the first time around, and that's meant that, of course, he's going to get another one there. Let's see now. Now's the time, Farrell. If you've got the pace, you've got to show us what you've got, because you're in P5. Yes, he's got cars in front of us on slower tyres, older tyres, but passing and catching in Monaco are two different things. If you were to ask Nigel Mansell, he'll tell you 1993, I believe it was, 1992, around Monaco, of course. He could not get past Ayrton Senna on I think it was about 6 seconds a lap quicker at one point, and he could not get past the McLaren in front of him. I sound like an old man when I say that. I promise I'm only 23. But with that said, obviously it's going to be so hard for the drivers to get past, even with faster tyres. So interesting to see. I mean, a man who'll definitely be saying that at the moment is Hepuli Boy. In P4 at the moment, he cannot get through on Stomper as Cam K gets a 3-second time penalty. Great racing between these two. I think they've got a lot of respect between each other in this race at the moment. As THI crashes, I believe, at the chicane. Yes, it is at the chicane as well. So not what you like to see there, but he's actually gone into the barrier at the exit of the corner. Hopefully that car leaves the track sooner rather than later. Yes, it does, thankfully. Got another comment saying Coolhead Connor 44. He's got a penalty at the moment, but he's doing well to be up in P2 at the moment. 8 seconds clear of P3 as well. So let's see what he can do on those worn, it must be said, medium tyres. But Stomper and Hepuli Boy battling out for P3 at the moment.
Yeah, Farrell just... I don't know what goes on when he switches from qualifying to the race, but, I mean, he was really... Like, on that... I know obviously it was the outlap and it's a struggle to warm up the tyres, but Crack is all over the back of him already. Like, I'm pretty sure the gap was 2.5 seconds. Crack is already there. After just the outlap, Farrell just seems like he cannot get the tyres warmed up. Now he's starting to close in on the cars in front, but really struggled. The gap to Cool Kicker is 24.8 seconds from Farrell.
Wow.
Like, I'm not a betting person, but even I can see that putting a bet on Farrell right now is not a smart thing to do. but I guess he's got to try. I think second is still on the table. He's just got to get through Stomper and Hapudy Boy, which isn't very the easiest task, especially when they're nose to tail like they are. But
Look at the
second
pace
is
of Crack as
definitely
well.
still there.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, you briefly mentioned it there as well. But I mean, yes, Farrell, of course. Stomper retires. He crashed.
Oh!
Yes, he's crashed. Potentially could have had a bit of contact with Hepuli Boy going through, but he's
Oof.
absolutely in the barriers at the casino section. Car buried in the barrier, so that's going to be the end of his podium chances, and that is going to really help Farrell and, of course, Crack as well get towards Hepuli Boy and Connor O'Keefe potentially. We weren't riding with him at the time, so not entirely certain if there was contact between the drivers or if it was just an error from himself. But of course, Crack is right on the back of Farrell as well. Farrell's going to want an easy end of this race to go as close as he can as a Hepuli Boy and just potentially get a podium or sneak anything else. But with Crack right on the back of him, he's got to look in his mirrors as well. It's not going to be the easiest end of this race. One person who's definitely, seemingly going to have an easy end of this race is Coolie Kicker. Hopefully they don't give him the commentator's curse there, but on lap 25 out of 39, almost 12 seconds clear out front, no penalties. Speaking of which, M. Kurz gets a 3-second penalty. But Cooler Kicker, brilliant qualifying, brilliant race so far, and 2/3 in, it looks like he's not only going to get a second podium of the season, but he's also going to take the jewel in the crown in Division 3. Season 10 and get, as Hepli Boy gets a 3-second time penalty. That's massive as well, and all the times seem to be changing now. Farrell knows all he needs to do really is just stay 3 seconds within and he will get a podium now. But of course, does he want to go for Connor? If he does, he needs to get past Hepuli Boy and then push on to get anywhere near his penalties.
Yeah, I was going to say about that crash. I think if there was contact involved in that crash, Hapudy Boy would have been in the pits on the last lap. Because it doesn't look like he's got damage. It doesn't look like he's losing a stupid amount of time to the cars in front. It's more likely, I think, that Stomper's just turned in, hit the wall too early, and gone cruising into the wall on the left-hand side. But yeah, as you're saying, penalties starting to rack up for people now. And actually, let me have a look. I mean, everyone's on 3 seconds that's got one, except from Crack, who's on a very nice 11. But it's going to cost. It probably costs, unless Farrell has a major error, it probably costs the Pewdie Boy his podium.
Sorry to cut across there. Crack, actually, speaking of which, he almost loses it out the final corner. And he had a really good chance, actually, to go down the inside, potentially, of turn 1 and get Farrell there. But he had such a tank slapper out the exit of the final corner. And he just put himself in a precarious position once more. And Farrell, one thing I will say, yes, he doesn't seem to really have the race pace at the moment. But he's just not making any mistakes, is he? You know, he's basically just a roadblock in the road. He's doing everything he can to get as many points as possible. We mentioned it, of course, YHY Championship leader not here this week. So Farrell wants to do everything he can to just get as much points as possible. And one thing I'll definitely say, yes, he might not have the most pace in the world around Monaco, but he's got the consistency, and consistency is absolutely key. As we see M-Kurz battling actually with Cam Kazel, gets the move done going into Mirabeau. Great move from him there as we go through the hairpin for the 26th time out of 39. But like I say, Farrell, yes, hasn't seemingly got the most pace in the world, but he's got the consistency.
Yeah, and that's one of the things he has had throughout the season. He's very good at staying ahead of people, even when he just isn't quite on it pace-wise. And as say that, he now breaks into that 3-second window of Hepuli Boy, starting to, well, catch him very quickly, actually. He's down to 2.4 already. That tyre difference is going to come in very, very... yeah, it's going to come in big time, especially with Connor, who's managing to keep a very nice gap to Hepuli Boy. But whether he can do that if Farrell or Crack get through, I don't know, because the tyre difference there is 9 laps on the mediums. And you saw, I think it was about lap 9, lap 10, that the gap at the front started stabilising before the cars behind started battling. So it's a risky position for Connor to be in, but at least he does have that buffer in front. And actually, I think, has that gap at the front started to come down slightly?
I think so, slightly. I think I'll let you mention it there. Yes, the mediums and the hards on both cars will, of course, be losing grip at the moment. One thing I will say at the moment, Farrell seems to be slightly pulling away now from Crack. only ever so slightly, but of course we see in the final sector mainly Crack has a brilliant set of corners. As we see now, he closes right up again. So I think it just sees that these drivers, they're faster at different points of the circuit. But one thing I'll definitely say is they are most definitely faster than Hepuli Boy in front. 1.5 seconds is the gap now. Of course, Farrell needs to keep an eye on the car behind, but if he can get a move on Hepuli Boy, he potentially could gain the time, because he is actually gaining, of course, massively on Connor as well on those mediums. Yes, Connor isn't losing too much time at the moment, but 15 laps on those mediums. These mediums, there's a point with them where you just fall off the cliff and the tyres will start going pop. So let's see what happens with Connor. Yes, he's not had the best race by his own standards, wanted to win this one, but P2, I think, after everything he's been through, he'll absolutely run home into the sunset with. But like I say now, the gap is only 1.1 seconds now between Hepuli Boy, Farrell, and of course Crack right behind as well. So interesting to see now what's going to happen as we close into the final few laps of this race.
Yeah, and that gap for the lead is now under 10 seconds. It's the first time in a while it's been under 10 seconds. So Connor is starting to gain on Hepuli Boy. No, I don't know whether that's more something's happened to Hepuli Boy. No, not Hepuli Boy, sorry. Cooler kicker. But yeah, that gap is definitely coming down as Farrell now within DRS range. Obviously, DRS isn't going to make a fat lot of difference round here, but just that kind of it's a mental thing. You want to be in that second window. Just it signifies you're close, I guess, as they come down and through turn one, and Farrell is right there now, as well as Crack actually is now right back over the rear end of Farrell again, but similar position to early in the race, nothing doing for anyone through this section of the track. It is really just that run down to the chicane is the main overtaking point, and Farrell is really not close enough this time around. He's going to get stuck. I just got this feeling.
Yeah, it's a horrible feeling, of course, when you're around Monaco. I'm sure you'll know it yourself, RJ, when you're kind of stuck behind the car in front. Know you've got so much space and there's nothing you can do. But if there's any time, of course, to show it, this is the moment. Tell us what you've got for it, because this is the moment. Same for you, Crack. We need to see what pace you guys have got. See if you can get past Hepuli Boy. See if you can get towards Connor. This is where the race is at the moment, as Hepuli Boy actually makes a mistake there, jumping over the curbs. That's really allowed Farrell to close in as we go through Sandy Vot now. Excuse me, not Sandy Vot, that's the first one. What are you talking about, Patrick? As we go through Raskas, should I say, going towards Sandy Vot now. And Hepuli Boy, yes, he's now under threat from DRS, but like you mentioned, it just doesn't make much of a difference though. But as we go up the hill now, this is where the use of the ERS is really going to be massive. You can see actually Farrell's got, as we see some overtaking going on. Yes, Matt in the background going through. Raskas now gets the move done on himself. So Mkers gets through as Matt is on 23 lap old hard tyres now. I think he understands that he's not his race anymore. But back to the battle that we're looking at. Of course, the battle for the lead and second place seem to be done, but the podium is well within grasp now for these three drivers. Yes, there's some penalties, but of course we want to see the overtakes done on track. So as we go through the tunnel section now, 10 laps including this one to go. Let's see what kind of exit Farrell has. Doesn't seem to be the best of one. He's got 90% ERS, so potentially what we are seeing could be Farrell just thinking, you know what, I might not be able to get to Connor, so let's just try and stick here, stay in front of Crack, stay behind Hepuli Boy, keep within that 3 seconds and get an easy podium.
And I think that might be his best bet with the pace that Connor's actually showing now. That gap at the front's nearly down to 7 seconds now. Whether that's Cooley Kicker just easing off, which I think it might be, still, that is coming down very, very quickly. Something we haven't mentioned, I don't think, is fuel consumption. I've seen it many times. I don't know how many times you've seen it, where people get to the end of a Monaco race. Well, let me rephrase that. They get to the penultimate lap of the Monaco race and don't finish the final one because they run out of fuel. I have...
Oh, Crack potentially. Sorry to crush there. Almost tried to go down the inside actually. Farrell there didn't quite make it. Oh, hits the back of him though as he go into Mirabeau. But into the hairpin now. Yeah, I think Crack is getting a little bit bored now, stuck behind the pink car. He's been staring at the back of that car, seeing the BWT logos all over for the last 15 or so laps, and he's getting bored, I think, of seeing that at the moment. So let's see if he can make any moves going through. But yes, like you're saying, absolutely, fuel consumption. I mean, usually around Monaco, it's not really something to think about because, of course, you aren't on the throttle for a lot of the time. You are doing quite a lot of trail braking and so on. As we see a bit of a mistake there from Hepuli Boy as well, potentially feeling the pressure of the cars behind. But yeah, like you were saying, fuel consumption is very important around Monaco, especially when you leave it a bit too late because you're so concentrated on not getting it into the barriers, and you find yourself with a few laps to go going, oh my god, I've just been told I'm running out of fuel.
Yeah. What was going to? Oh, completely forgot what I was going to say now. Yes. I was going to say about ERS. I'm just looking at the ERS. Crack has absolutely nothing left compared to everyone else.
Yeah.
He's trying, but I think he knows, unless it's a miracle, he's finishing probably P5 in this race. Farrell's got so much, he just seems very reluctant to actually use it, which is strange.
It might be very similar actually to what we were saying before as well. I think maybe he's just thinking, do you know what, let's just use it for defence, let's just stay within that 3 seconds and I'm going to get an easy podium here. I think it's gone past the point now where he thinks, look, I can catch maybe Connor potentially, because look at the gap, 13 seconds. One thing I will say as well, the gap at the front, 5.7 seconds now. I think Kulikika, unless he's got some damage potentially, where he's hit a barrier, maybe got a little bit of an orange front wing. But with that said, yeah, the gap down to 5.6 seconds, but of course Kulikika as well doesn't have a penalty. So even if Connor comes and rocks up to the back of him and gets an overtake done, you know, he can literally just stay within that 3 seconds as well and get the race victory. So yeah, I think Kulikika might just be slowing everything down, making sure he doesn't make any mistakes and get this race victory in the bag. Well, Headley Boy now pulling away slightly from Farrell. Farrell didn't have the greatest second
that was close to the wall. Sorry, that was really close to the wall. Kulikika, I think, might have some damage because he is going very deep into corners. He's pretty much full lock and just going really. He's just going really deep. He nearly hit the wall down at Massenet.
4.7 seconds as well.
Yeah, it's just the gap's coming down and he's just all over the place at the moment. I think potentially left end plate damage. Is what I think. Yeah. It seems all right in the rights, but the left-handers seem a bit dodgy. As that gap now down under 5 seconds. Connor does have that penalty, and we'll have to try and get past. But I don't think this is just Kulikika slowing down on purpose. This is damage, I think.
Yeah, I think he's running with one arm tied behind his back. It seems like at the moment he just doesn't seem to have the electric pace we saw earlier in the Grand Prix. Riding on board with him now, like you say, he just doesn't seem to have the car turn in for him as much as he has before. 4 seconds now, the gap at the front. So yes, with 6 laps to go, it's not all over, folks. I mean, what happens if Kulikika puts a wheel wrong, you know, gets a penalty, and then what have you got, Connor? Can you get through on the inside? Can you get through around the outside on the final lap? Who knows? But like we say, the gap down to 3.8 seconds at the moment. It seems to be status quo for 3rd place at the moment. But yeah, going through the hairpin, absolutely nothing for Kulikika. The car just not turning at all. Gap back up to 4.2, but instantly goes back down to 3.9. So let's see what Connor has. Yes, those tyres are going to absolutely be crying enough. Of course, if he was on some fresher mediums, then I'm certain we'd see him rock up right to the back of Kulikika. But at the moment, the tyres will be absolutely screaming on that car of Connor as we go through the Nouvelle Chicane on lap number 34 out of 39. But this race for the win is not over yet, folks. If you're still with us, like we say, we thought Kulikika would absolutely be flying away at the front, but unfortunately for him, for whatever reason, he's falling back into the grips of Connor.
Yeah, I think his saving grace at the moment is the fact Connor has that 3-second penalty, but this gap is coming down a second a lap. It's 3.3s are going to come across the line this time around. I think Connor's just going to run out of time to get the win. Potentially even on track without another Kulikika mistake. I say mistake. We have no idea. I haven't actually seen him make the mistake. So, but you just see when he.
But it's surely the mediums would be more dead. So he must have damage, surely.
Yeah, you just watch it. Oh, he's very, very deep into the hairpin. It just doesn't look natural. The lines that are being taken, it just looks very forced and almost like he's trying to compensate on the brakes for what he can't do in the corners as Matt Tibos comes into the pits, probably for a fastest lap attempt with 4 laps to go. He is in the points. Everyone's in the points, actually. As Connor O'Keefe picks up a penalty.
No. That could be the end of everything. After all that, I mean, we just saw in the comments as well, another person from the Connor fan club was saying, come on, Connor, you can do this. but not anymore, surely, with that 6-second penalty. That is going to be music to the ears of Coolie Kicker when he sees that looking on his screen. He'll absolutely be loving that. So he just really needs to keep it on track now. Even if he does get overtaken, I'm sure if Connor rocks up on the back of him, even attempts to put half of a front wing alongside, Coolie Kicker will jump out the way, because he knows now that he is absolutely on track to win this Grand Prix if he just keeps it on the circuit and does not get any penalties himself. But I'm sure now Connor, no matter what, will want to get a race victory on track either way. So let's see what happens. 2 seconds the gap at the front. Such a dominant performance from Coolie Kicker. Of course, he's made it hard for himself at the end, but this seems to be, with no penalties, no problems for him, it's going to be an easy race victory in the end now after Connor makes another mistake. But like you say, going through, oh god, the head, it's so close every lap to hitting the barrier on the outside. And just look how much the car just liaises to the left-hand side whenever it tries to turn. You can see that even on 23-lap-old mediums, Connor gained almost 0.6 of a second just through those few corners. So he must, like you say, have some front wing damage as we go through the Nouvelle chicane. But he does seem to be putting it in the right places, and he just doesn't seem to get any penalties. Let's see what Connor can do. But like you say, looks like Coolie Kicker's got this one in the bag.
To be honest, if I'm Coolie Kicker and Connor sticks a nose in, I'm not moving out the way. I'm not risking him finding a way to gain those 6 seconds, even if it is a lap. Enough. You never know what could happen. I'd rather him behind me, where I can see him and I can control his pace, than let him. I make a mistake when he's ahead of me. 1.2 seconds, 3 laps to go. It's obviously not. It's not going to be enough without a mistake from Coolie Kicker. Connor will go for it. I don't think there's any question about that. He will go for it if he gets a chance. But the other thing that plays into Coolie Kicker's hands is the massive gap behind them. 18 seconds to P3. He can do what he wants with Connor now. Ooh. As long as he doesn't give Connor a chance, he can do what he wants.
Absolutely. I think just looking at that as well, like no matter what he does, as Mkers gets through on Crack, who goes into the pits to get a fast lap attempt of himself, he did everything he could, Crack, to try and get past Heppley Boy and Farrell, couldn't quite do it, so he's going to go for a fast lap attempt as well. But like I say, going through the Nouvelle chicane, riding on board now with Connor, let's just see how much he can pull in the gap from Coolie Kicker, who goes through to back now. And yeah, the car just kind of meanders towards the wall for Coolie Kicker as Matt puts in that fastest lap. Crack gets another 5-second time for speeding the pit lane, for crossing the white line as well. That's 16 seconds worth of penalties now for that man. Great pace, but just doesn't seem to have the consistency to keep it on the circuit. Into DRS now for Connor. He wants to get this race victory on track. Let's see if he can do. I mean, at the end of the day, 2 laps to go. Who knows? He could scare Coolie Kicker into making a mistake. Let's not forget, Coolie Kicker hasn't run a race this season. Connor O'Keefe in second place, of course, with 6 seconds worth of time penalty, surely will not be able to get the race victory. But just look how much he closes in going through the casino section. And potentially, like you say, we'll see Coolie Kicker. I mean, if Connor potentially goes for a move, maybe we'll see him jump out of the way. Oh, it's Connor once again. Rear end stepping out, and because of that, lapped car almost comes through. But just look how much understeer Coolie Kicker gets. So let's see now. I mean, let's not forget as well, Connor O'Keefe, yes, he is doing lap times quicker than Coolie Kicker in front of him, but those medium tyres will be absolutely crying enough at this point. They're going to be saying, look, why have you not put me away? I want to be in the pits, relaxing in my tyre blankets, because at this point they are absolutely going to be crying enough. 25 laps old, so he needs to be careful there to make sure that they don't go pop on him on the final lap. But it seems to be at the moment, with 5 tenths the gap at the front, that it's going to be Coolie Kicker who takes this victory.
Yeah, just too little too late, I think. Coolie Kicker's going to survive. This is in no way just backing off to save fuel or whatever. This is not managing. This is damage. I don't think there's any question about that. He could not have perfected it this much if he tried managing the race. But 4 attempts with a lap to go, I just don't see any way Connor can get past and get. Well, the 6 seconds isn't even a question at this point.
God, he pulls in so quick as well, doesn't he?
He's so close to the back.
Goes through maybe into Mirabo. Will he try and get a move down the inside? No, he doesn't. I mean, if you're Coolie Kicker, of course, at the moment as well, you have not won a race this season. You only had 1 podium. Connor, of course, coming back from that amazing victory last time out at Monza. It's the final lap of this Grand Prix. It's been a slow burner, but we're getting the battle that we wanted right towards the end. This is the type of stuff that makes you fall in love with sim racing all over again as Connor loses the rear end, and surely that's going to be curtains for his battle. But of course, Coolie Kicker got the bright red car in the background. Going to be so scary to see. But with that said, Coolie Kicker now absolutely dominated qualifying. qualifying, goes through the Nouvelle chicane for the final time. Connor doesn't seem to have enough to get any move done. Into to back for the final time now. Just keep the car on track, Coolie Kicker, and you're on for your first race victory of the season at the Jewel in the Crown, the Monaco Grand Prix. Into the swimming pool chicane for the final time. Connor is absolutely harassing him through the final few corners. He wants to get the race victory on track, does Coolie Kicker, and it looks like he's going to be able to do that. It's not going to be Connor this time. As he goes around the final corner, it's going to be Coolie Kicker. A brilliant qualifying, and as he comes across the line, it's a brilliant victory around the Monaco circuit. First race victory of the season. Connor comes in for a well-deserved second place after a fantastic stint on those medium tyres, 27 laps old. Hepuley Boy is going to come across the line in P3, but it's going to be Farrell, the man fighting for the World Championship, who takes the much-deserved 15 points, closes that gap to YHY, as he wasn't here this weekend, really closes that gap, brings him into contention once more as a go to the next Grand Prix next time out. Brilliant race in the end for him. M. Kurz in P5, about to come around the final corner, of course, has a penalty, but has 6 seconds ahead of Mats at the moment. Not entirely certain if he'll stay ahead. I think he's only got 3 seconds, hasn't he? Yes, he will. So P5 for M. Kurz at the moment. Hepuley Boy takes that 4th position. And at the end of the race, like I say, going to get a fastest lap attempt potentially from Crack at the moment as he comes across the line. Will he get the fastest lap? No, he gets a 5-second penalty for an unserved penalty, of course. I think he's going to get a few of them, actually. And he actually comes across the line with no front wing, so I don't think it was the best end of the race for Crack at the moment. But after all that, Coolie Kicker dominated qualifying, made it hard for himself, but it's a brilliant race win here in the Principality.
Yeah, and the other thing I just remembered, Connor, that early stop was forced.
Of course,
with the front wing damage.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he lost that time in the pit stop and made it back, and second place across the line. Less than a tenth and a half behind first. He's just messaged me saying he could have won without Farrell, which I think is, if I remember correctly, is where the damage came. So yeah.
I mean, it's good to see at least, of course, that that didn't put him out of the race. He's still got a well-deserved P2 finish. But it is Coolie Kicker at the end of the day. I don't want to take anything away from him. Realistically, he was dominating the race. Yes, he did. He must have made a mistake because he had so little grip on younger tyres than Connor behind, so he must have had damage. But Coolie Kicker, an absolutely incredible race from him in the end, and I'm sure he's going to be absolutely celebrating as the fireworks go off in Monaco. It's Coolie Kicker who takes the win from pole position. Connor in second, Farrell in P3. Hepuley Boy takes a good P4 finish for him. M. Kurz in P5, Mats in P6, Cam K in P7, Matt in P8, Crack in P9, Jordan in P10, and then Stomper in P11, and FVR takes out the top 12 and, of course, the final points paying position. So, after a brilliant race around Monaco, what do we have to say? Last few words. What are you expecting for next time out, RJ?
Oh, next time out, it is Silverstone. It always ends up the same thing. It always ends up in this massive train from first to last, and but it does normally end up with some good racing. I'm just hoping that certain things get fixed for next week, like the safety car,
Of course,
and if you crash on lap 1 like Jordan did today, which I noticed, Jordan ended up getting lapped because he couldn't get back to the field. So that's as long as everything's fixed for next week, racing's going to be great.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, all things considered, I think it was a good race. It was a really fun race to watch. First of all, thank you for letting me be here with you, RJ. It was fantastic fun. I'd love to do it again one time. But yeah, like you say, of course, let's not forget, of course, about Division 2 and Division 4 as well on at 8:10, so feel free to tune into that as well. I'll be racing in Division 2. Don't know if I have any fans out there, probably not. But if I do, please come join me. I'd love to see if you think I'm good enough to get a race victory. But yes, like I say, thank you so much, RJ, for having me here. It was absolutely fabulous fun, and we will see you all next time out at Silverstone. See you later.